Hi, this is Jackie with Panama Relocation Tours. Thank you for joining us for our Saturday live stream. This live stream is all about you getting answers to your questions about moving to and living in Panama. We'll get started with those questions in just a little bit while we're waiting for a few more people to roll in. I want to make a quick announcement. For those of you that are new to our live streams, my name's Jackie Lang, owner of Panama Relocation Tours. Since 2010, we've been helping people move to Panama the right way. We do that with our all-inclusive 6-day, 7-night tours, private tours, and we also have something called the online guide, which is like a home study course on how to move to Panama. A little bit later in the live stream, I'll tell you how you can get a big discount on the online guide. But first, I want to tell you how the live stream works for the Q&A. Unfortunately, I'm not able to click on your name and pop you up on the screen, and we can see your face and ask your question. You'll have to type your question into the chat window, and you must put 3 question marks, question mark, question mark, question mark in front of your question. Otherwise, I won't know that you even have a question, because there's other little conversations going on over there on the side. By the way, those conversations going on the side are kind of distracting to people that are trying to pay attention to the questions and answers. So you might want to try to minimize that just a little bit. So one other thing I'd like to announce is, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Then you'll be the first to know about new videos that we have coming up and other live streams that we have coming up also. We do this every Saturday. Sometimes we do a special one on a different day. So if anybody has a question for me, we'll go ahead and get started with that. With the Q&A part, you need to type it into the chat window and put 3 question marks in front of it, and then I'll pop it up on the screen. Only restriction is no politics. Please leave politics out of the equation. Panama politics and politics from other countries, please leave it out. So Kim wants to know, do I need to renew my passport the same year I get my pensionado visa? So not necessarily. If your passport doesn't expire for a long time, then there's no reason to renew it before you get your pensionado visa. But if your passport's going to expire within the next year, then you might want to go ahead and get it renewed before you get your pensionado visa. And Sharon says, we're trying to learn Spanish, but it's a process. Believe me, I know. Will we have trouble in Panama if we don't speak Spanish well, or do a lot of people speak some English? Well, in some areas of Panama, people speak a lot of English. If it's an area where there's a high concentration of expats, like in Coronado or Boquete, a lot of the Panamanians speak English. But in other parts of the country, like Panama City or Penonomé, Chitre, then people don't speak English very much in those areas. So long as you get proficient with Google Translate, you'll do just fine. Panamanians know how to use Google Translate to get their point across, and you need to learn how to use Google Translate as well. You can also use Google Lens to translate menus, because in some areas there'll be menus that are in English or Spanish, but other areas it's going to be Spanish or Spanish. So learn how to use Google Lens or Google Translate with the Lens part of it to be able to translate a menu into English, so you know what in the world you're ordering. And Jeff wants to know, if I'm married to a Panamanian citizen, we're going to retire in Panama, which visa is better, the family visa or the pensionado visa? So if you were to get the family visa based on being married to a Panamanian, I can tell you it'll take at least 2 years, maybe 3, to get that visa. So it's very time consuming. And remember, you can't get any of the pensionado discounts until you get your permanent visa. But if you were to apply for the pensionado visa, it's quick and easy. You'll have your permanent visa in less than 6 months. So I would say go with the pensionado visa. And Diane wants to know, coming in November, talked to Casa Solution, but said to wait, but I need to book a flight. Yeah, it's way too soon. You should not contact any rental agents about rental properties until literally 2 or 3 days before you're coming to Panama, because whatever's available right now is not going to be available in November. And John wants to know, can I drive to Panama with my California driver's license? So you can drive in Panama for the first 90 days that you're in Panama, so long as you're still a tourist. As soon as you apply for a residency visa, then you can no longer drive on your foreign license. You have to get a Panama driver's license. By the way, if you came in a little bit late and you're wondering how you can ask a question, unfortunately, I can't pop you up on the screen for you to ask your question live. You'll have to type it into the chat window and put 3 question marks in front of it so I know that it's a question, and then I'll pop your question up on the screen and I'll answer it. So Cheryl Lynn says, so expensive to relocate, $1,900 plus for attorney fees. How do I reduce so many costs more than qualifying for a pensionado? So one of the ways to reduce your costs is to use one of our recommended immigration attorneys in the online Panama relocation guide. Their costs are considerably less than $1,900 to get a visa, especially for a single person getting a pensionado visa. They give everybody a PRT, or Panama Relocation Tour discount, on top of their already low fees. So you can reduce your costs by doing that. By the way, if you don't already have the online Panama relocation guide, between now and Sunday at midnight, it's on sale. You get 10% off with the coupon code PRT10. Let me pop that up here real quick. The coupon code is PRT10 to get 10% off the online Panama relocation guide. You can go on our website at PanamaRelocationTours.com and click on the online guide tab at the top to see what's inside the online guide, but this is just a quick overview. Of course, it has the contacts for immigration attorneys, real estate agents, insurance brokers, fixers to help you get things done, car brokers, pet relocation, international movers, all the things that you might possibly need. But it also has instructions on how to get your driver's license, how to buy a car, what things you need to know to get your pet into Panama, and just all the other things. It has a 6-month checklist on things to do, remember to do before you leave your country. When you're moving to Panama, it's a good reminder so nothing falls through the cracks. And then it also has a self-guided tour section for people that want to do their own tour. And it has free access to our private community where we offer ongoing support and feedback every single day. 6,000 members are right there to help you with any questions that you have also. So once again, the online Panama relocation guide is on sale for 10% off if you use coupon code PRT10. So now let me get back to the questions. Are there any earthquakes common in Panama? Earthquakes are common in Panama. They actually happen probably every day, but most of the earthquakes are so minor that you don't even feel them. Many of them happen, 40, 50 miles out in the ocean. And so they register as a little earthquake, and it might feel a little wiggle in Panama, but we don't have the destructive kind of earthquakes like you see in other countries where buildings crumble and people are killed. So we just have little minor earthquakes. First time you experience one, though, it'll be a shocker. And you have to be sitting still, like watching TV or something like that, for you to even feel it. If you're driving, you probably won't feel it. Once again, you have to put 3 question marks in front of your question for me to click on it and pop it up on the screen. So Marilyn wants to know, since I'm bringing my dog and he'll have to be quarantined for 40 days, should I just get an Airbnb since I don't want to be pressured into renting just anything? Yes, you should get an Airbnb for the first 40 days. The only other option is if you were to come to Panama in advance before you move your dog here and go ahead and secure a longer term rental. But once again, you feel kind of pressured to get something quickly. So I'd say get that quarantine for 40 days in the area, the town that you think you want to move to, because you don't have to quarantine for 40 days. You can be out looking for other rentals. You can get your visa, go grocery shopping, go to the movie. Just your pet has to stay quarantined. And they do come and check to see if you're really quarantining your dog. So make sure that the dog or cat stays in the property, in the house, or right on your property. You can't take them for a walk in the neighborhood. And Jane wants to know, if shipping a pallet, do the tubs have to be 27 gallons or can they be larger? They can be larger. I would recommend, though, that you do the 27 gallon, because if they're larger, they're going to get really, really heavy for you to move around. So you could hurt your back, or the moving people could hurt their back also. The 27 gallon ones are quite large, and it's going to be easier for you to handle and manage. And Bob wants to know, have you had any recent feedback from anyone driving from the USA to Panama safety-wise? So we just did have someone that drove to Panama last week from Seattle. They drove to Panama, and as soon as they get settled, I'm going to have them on a live stream to talk about their experience. They didn't have any safety problems at all. They took 17 days to drive from Seattle to Panama. So hopefully then in May, I'm hoping I can have them on a live stream to talk about their experience. By the way, if your question scrolls up off the screen before I get to it, you might have to type it in a second time for me to see it, to click on it. I understand that there's good health care in Panama, but how is mental health care? How is it finding a therapist? Or so there are psychiatrists and therapists. I don't have any personal experience with that, so I can't say if it's good or bad one way or the other, because I have no personal experience. I just know that there is mental health, and therapists and counselors are readily available. By the way, in the online Panama relocation guide, if you already have it, just do a Google search for healthcare providers, and we have that broken down by specialist. So you can do a search and find a healthcare provider, any specialist in your area for what you need. What about becoming ancient? What is the condition and care of Panamanian old folks' homes? So, well, I guess that would be, a lot of people would be considered ancient just by the number that they are, but the number's just, it's in your head. So I do have an article about assisted living care. There's a few private assisted living facilities. Home health care is readily available. There's also some government sponsored home health care and assisted living. So go to our website at Panama Relocation Tours and do a search for assisted living, and you can see a link to the private and the government assisted living and more information about home health care. Honestly, home health care is more popular in Panama. Is there a bus from San Carlos to Coronado, and are there public hospitals or clinics nearby? So San Carlos has a public hospital. Coronado does not. San Carlos has a public hospital, and then Panama has a public hospital, a little bit further west. There are some public transportation that's available, but you might wait for a while and it might be crowded. It might be faster to just get a taxi, which would be about $4. Is the May and June timeframe a good season for renting a house in Boquete? It's not high season for renting. Yes, May and June, May all the way through November is a really good time because the snowbirds have gone, so there's a lot more inventory and the rents tend to come down a little bit. What is a ballpark daily rate for a private tour of the Bocan, Boquete, David area for a couple? So for two people on a private tour, starting early in the morning, going till in the evening, is $300. That includes all pickup at the airport, all transportation, and lunch, besides your professional tour guide that will show you those areas. Can I schedule a private tour while waiting for my permanent pensionado visa? So you could possibly schedule a private tour. You need to work with your immigration attorney because you need to be readily available. Usually when you meet with your immigration attorney, they're going to take your passport, you're going to sign some paperwork. Then they might say you've got one day to do whatever you want to do, like a private tour. But on the following day, you're going to have to be readily available to go to immigration. So you need to coordinate that with your immigration attorney. So is the general policy of a 6-month visa-free stay in place regarding visa-free travel for U.S. citizens? So it's there is visa-free travel for U.S. citizens or tourists can stay in Panama. It's not 6 months, it's actually 180 days. And there is a bit of a difference on that. You need to know also that you can only drive for the first 90 days of that 6 months. So that might change your plans just a little bit. And Stacy says, we have a 1-year-old, so we cannot do your standard tour. We would like to design a custom tour. Can you advise about 3 or 4 locations outside of Panama City that have the best international schools? Yeah, you definitely want to do Gargona and Coronado in that area. There's 5 different private schools that are in that area. We have an article about those international schools on our website at Panama Relocation Tours. Just search schools at the very top, and it has a link to schools that are in that area. A lot of people really like the one in Gargona, Pacific Coast International School, so make sure you check that one out. Are there any military bases still there? Nope, there's no military bases in Panama, and Panama doesn't even have a military. Do you know of any pinball machines in Panama? I don't have any clue about pinball machines. That's something I haven't looked for. Laura says, is there a way to schedule a tour that will have other families with kids versus retirees outside of a private tour? There's really not. We have a lot of people on the tour, and we never know which tours are going to have children and which tours are going to be singles and which tours are going to be couples. So there's not really a way to do that. One of the things that you might want to consider doing is a private tour, and let your private tour guide know that you'd really like to meet with other families with kids. And especially if you're bringing your kids with you, then that might be more beneficial, is just, plan the whole trip around meeting families with other kids. So if we get an international driver's license, can we keep driving with your visa? Nope, you cannot. Panama does not recognize an international driving license. You can only drive, if you're from North America, you can only drive for the first 90 days that you're in Panama. After that, you can't drive. You'll need to use public transportation or taxis to get around. Olga says, is it better to have the required documents apostilled or authenticated by the Panama consulate? So there's pros and cons to both of those. It's so much easier to get your documents authenticated by the Panama consulate. It's quick and easy to do that. The apostille could take a long time, like 2 or 3 months or 4 months. I've heard from some people even. So it's easier to do the Panama consulate authentication. The only drawback to it is that once you submit those documents to your attorney, they're going to have to get them re-authenticated by the Ministry of Foreign Relations in Panama City, but your attorney will take care of all of that, and it's quick and easy for them to do it. They're used to doing it. Reminder, you have to put in a question mark in front of your questions. Otherwise, I don't know if it's a question for me or just a conversation going on the side. John wants to know, does getting a pensionado visa impact my U.S. citizenship? It does not impact your citizenship at all. The visa only gives you permission to live in Panama. It doesn't grant you citizenship at all. Now, 5 years after you get your pensionado visa, you can apply for Panama citizenship. Most people don't even bother to do that. And Mary wants to know, does the tour route change from time to time? The tour route does change just a little bit from time to time, and it may be based on holidays that are going on, parades that are going on, where we can show rentals. Sometimes it's by a beach, sometimes it's in a town. So it does change just a little bit on where we go. Can you give us some suggestions on what others have found to be the best thing to do with phones before we leave the U.S. in preparation for how we will deal with phones in Panama? So the majority of people, John, they get their U.S. phone number ported over to Google Voice, and then they will still have the same U.S. phone number for receiving those SMS codes from your bank. Can still receive calls from people that already have that number. So that's what most people do. They just port their phone over to Google Voice. And I think it costs $20 to actually port it over, but then there's no monthly fee after that. If we came as a tourist and get a permanent visa, do we need to re-enter under the new visa? So when you come as a tourist and then you get your visa and you leave the country, when you come back, then you can either you're going to have to show your passport to get into the country, and then you can also show your visa or your cedula if you already have that. Lori says, coming in June, can I renew a U.S. passport there? You can renew a U.S. passport here at the U.S. Embassy. We have instructions in our online Panama relocation guide on how to renew your U.S. passport. Now, it'll take about 2 weeks for you to get your new passport back. So you need to make sure that you're going to be in town long enough for you to get your passport. Does the tour ever go to Avalle? The tour does go to Avalle de Anton sometimes, but we haven't gone there in a while because the road to get from the Pan American Highway up to Avalle is just horrible. It's filled with potholes, and the last few times that we went there, people literally got car sick because of the condition of the road. So until that road gets better, the tour is not going to go to Valle de Anton. Does Panama allow you to work as a remote worker under the residency permit? So when you get any of the residency visas that you get, whether it's Pensionado, Friendly Nation, or any of those, you can work as a remote worker. The only thing is you're not allowed to sell any products or services to people in Panama unless you have a work permit. And some visas, like the Pensionado visas, it's very, very difficult, almost impossible to get a work permit. Mary wants to know, if you decide to go with the Friendly Nation visa and you deposit $200K in a CD for 3 years, what happens after 3 years? After 3 years, you could take the money out, or if you want, you could leave it in the bank and just start another 3-year CD if you want to. There's no further requirements. And Brian wants to know, I'm a retired Alberto farmer. Love my country home, but would like to be a snowbird. Best visa for me is I hope to buy a waterfront condo. Is there a Spanish lesson offered booked in November? So yeah, you can. I would suggest that you go ahead and get a Pensionado visa if you qualify. You'll need to show at least $1,000 a month in U.S. dollars and lifetime income. So convert your Canadian dollars to U.S. dollars. It needs to be at least $1,000. If you have a spouse that's coming with you, you would need $1,250. The benefit of getting the visa, even though you're just going to be a snowbird, is you can take advantage of that 25% discount on airfare, plus you get 20% off at restaurants, 20% off at pharmacies, 25% off your electric bill at the condos. You get a lot of discounts. So usually within about 2 years, all those discounts pays for your visa. Jerry says, how many days are needed to get a Pensionado visa in David? You're going to need 5 business days to be able to get a visa in Panama. So make sure you stay long enough to get it. Yeah, Buster's upset about something. No, he wants, usually we take a walk at 7 o'clock at night, and he thinks it's time to take a walk. So sorry, he's meowing. Do a lot of expats keep property in their home country, and what would be a reason to do so? Wonder if it'd be better to sell. So everybody's different. Some people, whenever they come and visit Panama, then they know they can't wait to move to Panama and they're really excited about it. That was me. So I got rid of all my real estate in the United States before I moved to Panama. Other people, maybe the husband's excited to come and the wife is, I don't know about this. So if you're married, or even if you personally are kind of on the fence about whether this Panama thing is going to work out or not, then I would recommend that you keep your property for at least 6 months or a year before you completely liquidate everything. Because if you decide Panama is not right for you and you move back, then you'd have a place to move back to. No, Buster wants to take a walk. I'm sorry that he's making all that noise. Shh, Buster. Shh. Okay. Where Plato On your go in January is the relocation package included in your 7-day tour. So yes, when you come on a Panama relocation tour, then you're also going to get the online Panama relocation guide for free, and you'll get access to our private Panama relocation tour community, where we offer ongoing support and feedback every single day. You'll also get invited to our monthly meetups and get-togethers. So we have multiple locations throughout the country simultaneously. Yes, Buster's stealing the show. If we came on the tour and decided to get the visa, what documents should we have with us to get the visa prior to returning back to the States? Well, first of all, it's not really going to work out for you to just come on the tour and say, hey, I want to get a visa after the tour or before the tour. You're going to have to plan at least, I would say, 2 months in advance, coordinating it with your immigration attorney and scheduling it into their slot. Plus, it takes time to gather the documents and get them authenticated or apostilled. Canadians have to get their documents apostilled. U.S. citizens can get them authenticated at the Panama consulate. So, what we really recommend is come on the tour, make sure Panama is right for you. And then, if you're going to stay another 2 weeks after the tour, then you could, in the last minute, perhaps get a visa if you can get scheduled with immigration attorney. But normally you have to book that at least a month or two in advance to get a visa. Are there any signs that recent tensions with the U.S. government has soured Panama on letting U.S. citizens get residency? Nope, none at all. Can you keep my indoor cat with me during quarantine? You have to keep your indoor cat with you during quarantine. Your cat has to stay inside, or you can put it on a leash and you can walk it around out in the yard, but you can't just let it loose. Ingrid says, if you sell your home in the USA but still need an address for Social Security, banks, etc., how do people handle that? Well, most people are going to use either their adult children's address, a friend's address, brother or sister's address. Some people rent a box at a UPS store and use that address. Another option is if you continue to order Amazon and Walmart and other things that you have shipped to Panama, you'll be assigned an address in Florida that you could use that address as well. How long do you have to stay in Panama per year if you're a resident? So the requirement after you get your visa is you have to come back to Panama at least 1 day every 2 years. There's no requirement to actually live in Panama. Sherman says, do you think it's reasonable to get a Panama driver's license in Panama City in 5 days from getting an appointment with the embassy and not coming around the Panama holidays? It is possible. I would absolutely recommend that you get that embassy appointment before you even come to Panama, because sometimes they're 30 days out before you can even get an appointment at the embassy. And that you have to have that authentication from the embassy before you can do anything else. Reminder, you can't get a Panama driver's license until you have a residency visa. So you have to have your visa first before you can get a Panama driver's license. Stacy wants to know, which are the areas of Panama that have both large expat community and international schools? So that would be Panama City. There's a lot of expats in Panama City and international schools. The Coronado Gorgona area has a large expat community and international schools, and then Boquete has a large expat community and international school just south of town. Is Volcan, Boquete, or Alto Boquete and David in the Cherokee province? Yes, Volcan, Boquete, Alto Boquete, and David are all in the Cherokee province. Basically, most of Western Panama is Cherokee province, except some of it up north is the Bocas del Toro province. Do you have to have your permanent visa to get your e-cedula? Yes, you do. You can't get your e-cedula until you have your permanent visa. What is the least expensive route to qualifying or operating a business in Panama. The least expensive route is to get a special friendly nation visa where you set up a corporation that issues you a labor contract. We have a little bit of information about that on our website. So if you go to Panama Relocation Tours and you search for 4 ways to get a friendly nation visa, it's number 4. Option number 4 explains that process. That's the least expensive way. We also have a lot more information about starting a business in Panama inside of our online Panama Relocation Guide. And just a quick reminder, you can get 10% off the Panama Relocation Guide if you order it before midnight on Sunday, April the 27th, 2025, because I know some people are going to be watching the replay of this, and you have to use coupon code PRT10 to be able to get the 10% off. If you don't put PRT10 in the coupon area and click apply, then you won't get 10% off. Are there many places for freshwater fishing, rivers, streams, or lakes? I have my cat's full attention. Yes, I know. He wants to go for a walk. Usually we take a walk in the morning and we take a walk in the evening. I didn't do the walk this morning, so he's pretty upset with me. So there are rivers and streams, like outside of Boquete, Caldera River, and other things. There are rivers and streams. However, some of them have no fish. Because of the coffee processing, the runoff from the coffee processing into the streams extracts the oxygen from the water, so fish can't survive. So you may have to go to some other areas. Lake Gatun is a big lake that's close to Panama City. That's a good place to go. There's Jansen Lake over in Volcan is a good place to go fishing. But many of the rivers and streams won't have fish. Our driver, Jorge, he knows all the secret places where to go fishing in rivers and streams that are away from towns where the coffee processing is. And our next question, our marriage license has my wife's maiden name. Does that create a problem when applying for a visa since it does not match her married name? What you need to do is ask your immigration attorney about that. I don't want to give you incorrect information, so the best thing to do is talk to your immigration attorney about correcting that. Or if it's going to be a problem, I don't know. So MiniMed question, Lee, I recently watched your MiniMed episode and wanted to check. Can you sign up with them if you haven't had a COVID vaccine? Yes, you can sign up with MiniMed. They don't require a COVID vaccine. There's no age restriction. There's no restrictions for pre-existing conditions. The price is only $20 a month for unlimited doctor visits, unlimited lab work, unlimited imaging. Or you can do $220 a year, save a little bit of money and do it that way. So if you go to our website at Panama Relocation Tours, we have an article about it, and we actually have a link where you can sign up online with MiniMed and just do it that way. You can go into one of their clinics to sign up, but it's so much easier to just sign up online. Someone the other day that's in our group, they had an upset stomach and they went to MiniMed and saw a doctor. He determined what the problem was. He had some samples of medicine that he gave him. He went to go check out and they said, nope, you're a member. You don't owe us anything. So it's great to get medical care, or not just for $20 a month. Any medical care you need, you can go in. Oops, thought I clicked on that one. Tony says, my wife and I are moving the 10th of May. Would it be better to rent an Airbnb or should we stay in a hotel? Not sure how long it takes for rental in the Boquete David area. So, it depends. If the Airbnb is far away from, you want to get something that's kind of close to town so that you can maybe walk to some restaurants or walk to some grocery stores. But otherwise, you'd have to be renting a car or buy a car right away also. It might take 2 weeks for you to get a rental in Boquete. There's much more inventory now than there was earlier in the month, so a lot more inventory now. So I would plan on 2 weeks so you don't feel rushed on getting a rental. But I think you'd feel more comfortable if you stayed at an Airbnb or at least a hotel that has some kind of a kitchen where you can at least make some coffee in your room and prepare some meals. There are 2 hotels sort of, that have kitchenettes also. One is called Isla Verde. It's literally one block from Main Street. Isla, ISLAVERD. They have little round houses that have a kitchenette, a kitchen area, and then, it's beautiful landscaping. There's also something called Downtown Suites. That's also one block to downtown, an Oasis Hotel. They have suites also that all have a kitchen. So any of those, but check the prices on Airbnb as well. When does a heavy rain occur? Is there much flooding? So usually we're going to get rain, 3 or 4 times a week, starting in May. We're already getting some rain now, but the heavier rain and the rain that lasts longer doesn't start until about October or November. Are there Ubers in Boquete? There are no Ubers in Boquete, but taxis are readily available. Approximate price for immigration lawyer for a married couple. So approximate price for a married couple, if you use one of our immigration attorneys, is going to be about $1,600 to $1,900. $1,600 is what you're going to pay if you use one of the more affordable immigration attorneys. Is there contact for MiniMed that you can ask what the cost of major medical procedures are at their hospital? There is. If you go to our website at Panama Relocation Tours, in the article that I have about MiniMed, there's a brochure about their expat health membership plan that they have. And in the very last page of that is the contact information for a guy named Felipe Ramirez. He's the director, and you can contact him. His WhatsApp number is on there. Let's see. So here's one. It says, Chuck and Debbie, question. So I don't know if that's a question for me or a question for Chuck and Debbie. I didn't know there was other questions going on over there. My husband wants to look into purchasing property ahead of us actually moving there so he can still work in our country of Canada and pay for it, and then we'll have something when we get there. First of all, I wouldn't advise that you purchase any property in Panama until you've lived in that area for at least 6 months, because just to make sure you like it, because property doesn't appreciate in Panama like it might in other countries. So you want to make sure you really like it before you jump into buying something. What is the living area named for the former military base near Panama City? I know there was a base called Howard, but I don't know. I don't know the names of the military bases that used to be. There are no military bases in Panama anymore. Mary wants to know if we wanted to live a maximum of 45 minutes to 60 minutes from Tacoma, but also close to a nice beach and nature, where would you recommend? We're thinking Playa Bonita, Panama Pacifico. So, what you might want to consider doing is getting out to the Pearl Islands, Toboga, in that area, because from Panama City, you can take a ferry to go out to the Pearl Islands and be out there. But that would put you about an hour away from Tacoma International Airport. If you were at Playa Bonita, that there's not really a beach there. It's just a bunch of rocks. So it's not a very good area if you want an actual beach and nature and things like that. You might have to go further west to Chame, which is about an hour and a half away. And why doesn't Panama recognize common law? Because they don't consider it married if you're just living together and you don't have a marriage certificate. That's why. Own my business, can't qualify for a pensionado visa. What are my other options? So one of the other options that you have, Brian, which is maybe the best one, is for you to buy an annuity that pays at least $1,000 a month in lifetime payments. So we do have an article about that on our website. Shh, just a minute, Buster. Shh, shh, shh. So if you search on our article, I have an article that says how to get a pensionado visa if you don't have a pension. And there's an article about how to get an annuity so you can qualify for that pensionado visa. The other option would be buying real estate worth at least $200,000 or investing $200,000 into a CD in a Panama bank. The problem with the real estate or the CD is you're not going to get a permanent visa for 3 years. But if you get the annuity, then you can get a permanent visa within 6 months. And Daniel says, are there any plans to expand MiniMed beyond Panama City? Yes, there is. I talked to the director and the owner of MiniMed. They're planning to open up an office in Chitre and also one in David by the end of the year. They've also talked about opening up an office in Bocas del Toro as well. Are there any places to do lap swimming for exercise? Well, it depends on which city that you're talking about. Some cities have it and some cities don't. Kevin says, is it possible to rent in a gated community in Boquete and not need a car? If you were in Valle Escondido, which is a gated community that's close to downtown Boquete, you could certainly live there and not need a car. I know people that live there that they don't have a car and they've been there for 2 or 3 years. I had asked about buying property ahead of moving there, but we've been there once and coming again in July. So would it be good to buy property if we know where we want to be? You know, if you really, really want to buy a property, go ahead and buy it. I still recommend to everybody that you should actually live in the area for at least 6 months before you make a buying decision, because visiting an area as a tourist and actually living there for 6 months are two completely different things. What kind of activities are available between the months of September to December, specifically in Boquete, Trujillo, Panama City? So there's all kinds of activities. You know, there's going to be bingo, there's going to be trivia, there's going to be live music you can go to. If you're into knitting, you can do that. There's paint parties. There's museums you can go to. It just depends on which city that you're in. Panama City is going to have way more activities than they're going to have in Boquete or anywhere else. So the answer is it depends on which city. By the way, it's a good time for me to take a break because I see we've got 545 people on the live stream right now. I just wanted to let you know that our online Panama relocation guide, which is like a home study course on how to move to Panama, it's on sale between now and Sunday night at midnight, and Sunday is April the 27th of 2025. You can get 10% off. You use coupon code PRT10. Let me put that up here. And what it has a list of all the contacts that you're going to need, like immigration attorneys we recommend, insurance agents and property managers that we recommend, insurance brokers, car brokers, international movers, pet relocation, just everything that you would possibly need. But it also has information about just how to get things done. How do you get a driver's license? You can go get your cedula by yourself. Here's step-by-step instructions on how to do it. And just information about each one of the different cities. So all of those things are going to be in the online Panama relocation guide. You can read more about it on our website at Panama Relocation Tours and just click on online guide to see more details. Reminder, the 10% off expires on Sunday night, April 27th at midnight, and you have to use coupon code PRT10 or you're not going to get the discount. So now back to your questions. How does owner financing work for property in Panama? So I've helped a lot of people buy with owner financing because I used to be a real estate investor in Texas for 20 years before I moved to Panama. And I bought many properties with owner financing there. It's basically the same. You and the owner agree to a certain amount that's going to be on the down payment. You agree on what the monthly payments are going to be. If there's interest or no interest, I try to do it where there's no interest. Well, that Lester wants to get right in the middle. Now he's going behind the screen. And then And then you agree if it's going to have a balloon, meaning it has to be paid off in 5 years or 10 years with a full balance, or if it doesn't have a balloon. So you and the seller just come to agreement on everything. Then you write it up as a letter of intent that you're going to buy it with owner financing. These are the terms. Your attorney will create the purchase and sales agreement and create all of the note and the warranty deed and everything for purchasing it. And then you go to closing, and that's how you do it. Can you transfer a nonprofit organization to Panama, or does it have to be a for-profit organization? So it's much easier to create the nonprofit organization in Panama instead of transferring an existing nonprofit. Now, it does have to be truly a no profit, meaning that the directors and all of the other people that are in the company get no pay for it to be considered a nonprofit. So talk to your immigration attorney about establishing a nonprofit and see if your activities would actually qualify as a nonprofit, or perhaps they would not in Panama. If you're making money, then it's not considered a nonprofit. Are there any neighborhoods or towns near the universities or colleges? Yes, there's universities and colleges throughout Panama. There's high concentration of them in Panama City, and there are neighbors and towns close to all of them. There is a Florida State University in Panama City in the neighborhood called Clayton, but there's also other universities in Panama City and David and other places. Roger says, I just bought the online guide. Thank you very much. So ready to start moving things along. Won't be moving until March of 26, but might be soon as this June. Already visited, fell in love. So good. I'm so excited for you, Roger. You're going to really love living in Panama. You're just going to love living in Panama. And the online guide is going to help you have a smooth move. And make sure you tap into that free Facebook community that comes with the online guide, because that'll be a good resource for you with all the little questions that come up. Are there protected bike lanes or routes for cyclists that are paved? No, there are some in Panama City, but not in the rest of the country. Actually, I take that back. Valle de Anton and Volcan have some routes that are for cyclists that are paved. So Panama City, Valle de Anton, and Volcan have that, but the rest of the country, not so much. Is a 7-day stay long enough to apply for a pensionado visa and pick up the temporary? So if you're it takes 5 days for you to get your pensionado visa and get your temporary visa card, 5 business days. So if you were here 7 days, 5 business days is how long you're going to need to get that visa. As a Canadian, if you choose to buy a condo for cash, how long would it want it to be in Panama? So if you're going to buy with cash, it's still going to take maybe 30 days between the time that you sign the contract to buy it and the time that you can actually close. And I would highly recommend that you use your attorney, your immigration attorney, or whichever attorney you're working with, have your attorney draw up the purchase and sales agreement, and your attorney do the title search, and your attorney create all of the closing documents. But even from the time that you decide you want to buy it and you sign an agreement to buy it, it could be another 30 days before you can close. Did the assisted living facility ever open near Volcan? As far as I know, it has not opened. I know Sonia, the owner of it, was having trouble getting financing to finish it. They said, as soon as we have people living there, then we'll give you financing. She said, well, nobody can live here till I finish it. So she's in a bit of a catch-22. I have referred her to a couple of private investors that would put up the financing, but I haven't followed up to see if she's contacted them. Stacy says, is the expat community in Panama primarily made up of Americans and Canadians, or is it more diverse? It depends on where you are. If you're in Panama City, it's absolutely more diverse. I would say Americans and Canadians are in the minority. But if you're in other areas of Panama, like Boquete or Coronado, then it's going to be, just a minute. There goes Buster. Come on. He is just trying so hard to get my attention. So if you're in Boquete or Coronado, then it's going to be mostly Americans and Canadians. But in Panama City, it's going to be a little bit of everything. Are there other lawyers that can get a permanent visa in less than 6 months? So any of the lawyers might be able to get the permanent visa in less than 6 months. It's not up to the attorney. It's up to immigration. Sometimes immigration can get it done in 2 months, and sometimes it takes 6 months. It just depends. But the attorney you pick is not the determining factor on how long it's going to take to get that permanent visa. We got an Uber from Boquete to the airport in David 3 weeks ago. It was $18. Well, Ubers, there's like 2 Uber drivers that are in David. Boquete doesn't. If you search on the app for Uber drivers in Boquete, it won't show any. There's a couple of them that are in David, so you might have been able to catch one. But Ubers are everywhere in Panama City, and it's extremely rare in David or Boquete. Is there a large European expat community in Panama? Yes, there is in Panama City. Is there Spanish lessons offered in some of the more popular expat communities? All over Panama, every single town, there's going to be some Spanish lessons that are available. Some are in person, some are individual classes, private classes, some are going to be group classes, some is going to be teleclasses, so a little bit of everything. What all insects and animals do you have to be aware of, and are they deadly? So it depends on where you live. You'd have to be more specific about which. If you're going to be in the Darien jungle, that's one. The answer is one thing. If you're going to be in Panama City, the answer is something completely different. If you're in Chitre, the answer is different again. So it depends on where. Are there healthcare facilities in Chitre? There's excellent public hospitals in Chitre, and there's now also a private hospital in Chitre. I signed up for a tour. I'm really excited. Do we have ATM access, or should everyone use credit cards or Apple Pay? Also, do we open a bank account, or do we need a permanent address? So thank you so much for signing up a tour. So, it's an all-inclusive tour, which means you're not going to need any money. The only thing you would need money for is if you're going to buy any alcoholic beverages or any souvenirs. And for that, you can use a credit card. For some things, Apple Pay is not accepted everywhere. I would suggest that you bring $100 in cash with you also for souvenirs. But for alcoholic beverages, you could use a credit card for that. So during the tour, you're not going to open up a bank account. It's very difficult to open up a bank account in Panama until you have a residency visa. So you're going to need that visa first. Also, if you guys haven't done it already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're hoping to get to 50,000 people by the end of the year. I think we're at 46,000 right now. I don't know if we can get to 50, but I like to set big goals, and then maybe we have big results. So we're hoping we can get to 50,000, and you can help if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. So Boomer62 says, if we moved with another family, are there any large homes available to rent where we're retired and we want to live with our adult children and grandchildren? So sometimes there's some really large homes that are available. For example, I know a couple that they live with their adult children and their family and grandchildren and everything, and they have like an 8-bedroom house, and I think it's got 8 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms. that is in Boquete, but I also know of other things where there's like 2 or 3 smaller single-family homes on a compound where everybody can have their own private space, and that would be better. But those kind of things are definitely available. So, are there any concerns regarding dengue fever, yellow fever, and or malaria in the highlands of Panama? So, dengue fever definitely is a concern. So, you want to make sure that you don't have any, because that's created by mosquitoes. So, you want to make sure that you don't have any standing water like ponds or, tires that have some old water that's in it and things like that. So, get rid of any water. They do some spraying also in some areas for dengue fever, but as far as yellow fever and malaria, not so much. I think I just did that one. Besides Boquete, are there other live music hotspots in Western Panama? So there is a little bit of live music that happens in David, Panama. But it's going to be more Panamanian music. It's not going to be the expat bands. So that's another option. Know the names of agencies or services for hearing impaired. I know that there's a place inside of Hospital Cherokee called Hearing, the number 4U, I think is the name of it. But I don't know of any services, and what they do is help you get hearing aids, but I don't know of any services that are for hearing impaired. Panama is a little bit behind the times on things like ADA, the accessibility for people with mobility issues and hearing impaired, and they don't have vans for people that have wheelchairs. So they're a little bit behind the time on things like that. And that's why it's really good. If you do have some mobility issues, it's good to come and visit Panama and make sure it's going to be a good fit before you just make the decision to move to Panama. So Monique says, do we have any updates on the railway being built from Panama towards David? The most recent update was that they're going to start construction in January of 2026. They have all the route is already planned and everything, but they're not going to start construction until January. In Coronado, insects, animals, deadly. So yeah, in Coronado, they have these really deadly snakes that'll be on the beach. They're yellow snakes. You don't want to touch them. They also have, it's not so much that they're deadly, but they're going to have bugs. You might see some sloths, but the snakes are the things you have to be afraid of. I've also seen people that have found coral snakes when they were just out walking, on their condo property. So beware of any kind of snakes in that area. Muhammad says, I and my wife were married in our native country 48 years ago, way before becoming U.S. citizens. What is the workaround, if any? We both qualify for our own Social Security. Super easy workaround. Get married again. That's the easiest way to do it. Instead of trying to get a marriage certificate from 48 years ago and get it apostilled, just have a nice, make an appointment and just get married again, get a brand new, fresh marriage certificate. Are there any limitations on using credit debit cards in Panama by U.S. banks? I use the regional credit union. So yes, there are some limitations on using the credit card and the debit card. First of all, most banks and especially credit unions are going to charge a foreign transaction fee, even though Panama uses the U.S. dollar. Some of them charge a 3% foreign transaction fee. And then as far as like going to an ATM machine to get cash, you're only going to be able to get $250 per time, and it costs $6.50, sometimes $6.80 to get $250. So you might want to switch to something like a Charles Schwab or Fidelity that reimburses you for those foreign transaction fees and those ATM fees. So that would eliminate some of the fees. Debbie wants to know what towns would have the most animal, horse, livestock activity like shows, parades, and competitions. So anything in the Azura Peninsula is going to have horses, pigs, livestock activity, and parades. The Azura Peninsula, Chitre, Las Tablas, and those areas. Also Boquete, they just had a big horse parade. I think there was 400 horses that were in the horse parade. Also Volcan and Cerro Punta is another area. Is it raining in Boquete today? So I'm in Panama City, so I don't know if it rained in Boquete today. Oops, not a question, sorry. Are there agua fitness classes offered at pools and gyms? So some of the pools and gyms do have agua fitness classes. I know in the community of Playa Blanca that they offer it there. Also at the Bahia condo complex, it's in Gorgona, they offer it there. There may be some at other places that I'm not aware of, but I do know those two places both offer it. What cities other than Panama City has the most doctors? That would be David, Panama. Besides Panama City, David, Panama has really nice, large, modern hospitals and a lot of doctors. It's on far western Panama. It's already 6 o'clock. So let me answer just a couple more questions. I've recently obtained my pension visa. I have a place in Gorgona and have trouble transferring money. Could you please talk about that? So first of all, you mean like you need you need a Panama bank account. And then the easiest way is you've got two choices for transferring money. One is you can wire money from your existing bank into your bank in Panama. The other thing is if you have a U.S. bank account, you can just write a check from your U.S. bank and deposit that into your Panama bank, but it will take 21 days for it to clear. So I hope that you guys enjoyed. 1 hour went by really, really fast, especially with the distractions by Buster, who wants me to hurry up and get off of this live stream and take him for a walk. I bought this little stroller to put him in to take him for a walk in the neighborhood because he can't possibly do a leash. He resists that, but he loves it when I put him in the stroller and take him for a walk. Is he spoiled rotten? Yes, he is spoiled rotten. I have to admit that. But I hope you all enjoyed your live stream and that you learned something new with the live stream. If I didn't get to your question for some reason, don't worry. In just a couple of weeks, we're going to do another Q&A call, and I'll get to your questions then. So don't forget that we do have the sale on the online Panama relocation guide. You can get 10% off if you use coupon code PRT10. And that sale ends on Sunday, April the 27th, 2025 at midnight. So hurry up and get it before that sale expires. And you'll get instant access to the online guide. You'll also get instant access to our private Facebook community with more than 6,000 members where we're answering your questions and giving feedback every single day. So these kind of questions that you were asking, they come up all the time in our private Facebook group, and I'm right there answering them every single day. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.